In today's episode, I am joined with Warren Shoulberg, industry pioneer. He is a wealth of information when it comes to retail. He's been in the industry for a long time, super rooted, especially in the gift, home, furniture space. Warren actually gave me one of my very first speaking gigs in the retail space. I think the year was like 2011. And I just remember really liking him and what he teaches. He's a speaker. You may have seen him on different panels or at markets speaking. You might have read some of his stories in the different industry publications he contributes to. In today's episode, we're really talking about things to help retailers stay competitive, stay in business, some of these best practices that are foundational to your success, ensuring that you don't become complacent and really helping you stay competitive. I loved this conversation so much with Warren. I know you will too. Before we dive in, here's a little bit more about Warren. Warren Shoulberg is an expert in the retail and home furnishings field in a career spanning 5 decades that include editor-in-chief positions with several of the industry's leading B2B media. He has been honored by the industry several times, has guest lectured at Columbia University's graduate school, and has been quoted by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, CNN, ABC, and other news sources. You can check out Warren at warrensreport.com. We will link to him and his email in the show notes if you want to reach out to Warren. And let's dive in to today's episode. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, the Wolf of Main Street, and this is Rooted in Retail. Warren, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
As am I. Good to see you, Crystal.
Yes, good to see you too. We've known each other for a while in the industry, and you are super rooted in retail. So I'm really glad that you're here. Will you take a couple minutes and share a little bit about you and your retail journey?
So I've always been on the journalism side of the trade, in college in a store, but that's about my only hands-on experience as a store employee. Over the years, written and edited and been involved in running a number of publications, primarily on the B2B side, primarily in the home furnishings industry. But over the course of my career, I've written about refrigerators and motorcycles and baby strollers. So I got a pretty good cross section, and that's kind of allowed me to be able to have a broader perspective on the retail business and not just be pigeonholed into certain areas. So, and right now I'm writing primarily for a couple of B2B publications, and you can tell my generation. I still use the word publications, even if even if they're online. So.
Well, I will say a lot. I was actually just recently at the Gift and Home Trade Association conference a couple months ago, actually. And, a big thing that the retailer panels were saying is they love those catalogs. They love those magazines. So people just do love those publications. And you've got such great content and information over all these years. And you've also had such a front row seat of the evolution of the retail industry. So from your unique perspective, what are some of the biggest shifts you've seen, and how should today's independent retailers adapt to stay competitive?
People use the word consolidation all the time, but I like to use the word concentration, because I think the retail business has just got increasingly concentrated in fewer and fewer hands. So you've obviously got the big box guys, Walmart and Target and Costco, and they're just monsters. And even if you're an independent retailer and you think you're not competing against them, you are, and they dominate the business. So you've got to understand what they're doing. But to me, that's been a huge change in the retail business over the years that I've covered it. And then obviously, there's this thing called the internet. Maybe you heard about it. It's kind of changed everything. And, back when people talked about, the information superhighway, nobody had a clue what this was going to do. And you think about it, Amazon went live in 1995. Interesting little tidbit is the original name that they were going to use was relentless.com. And if you
Wow.
type in relentless.com on a URL bar, you'll get to Amazon. So they still own that. I always thought that was just a fascinating, if particularly useless piece of information. But so e-commerce, just a huge player in what's happening and all the permutations. So, it's not just online sellers, it's social media selling, it's live streaming, it's what you do through TikTok. So, if I had to kind of sum it up, it's this concentration and a bit of diversification in terms of formats that have come to be very important. So,
Yeah, it's been a big evolution, that's for sure. And what do you think, because of the competition and online, what is something that an independent retailer can do to stay competitive?
so I always say you got to go out and see other stores. I talk to so many people and I say, have you seen what XYZ is doing? And they say no. I'm still astounded at the number of people who say, I've never been in a Walmart. And that's just crazy. Whatever size your business is, you got to go out and see what everybody else is doing, both to pick up new ideas, but it's a defensive measure too. So if Target is all of a sudden selling a brand that you used to have or that you've been selling, and Target just got it because the vendor said, I want the big bucks from Target, you need to know that, and you've got to change your merchandising to reflect that, because Target's going to kill you on that stuff. You're not going to be competitive. You got to go out and see other stores, and not just stores in your own sector. If you're a gift and home retailer, go out and see apparel stores. Go see garden stores. See travel agencies. See cannabis stores. One of the best stores I've seen in the last couple of years is Planet X in Las Vegas, which is a pot store. It's brilliantly merchandised. It's so well done. Got to go see stores like that. So get out of your store, get out of your back room, get out of your hole, go see other stores. Critical.
I love that you say that. The market research, like you really do need to have your finger on the pulse. And I think it can create some of that inspiration for you too when you're looking at these different types of categories. Also, to your point of like traveling, if you are in Vegas or when you're going to different markets, making some time to see what those stores are doing, I think is really important. I'm actually doing store tours in New York City in January, which will
Really?
be, that'll already happened after this. And I'm just so excited to do that. And I'm like, man, I want to host some of these store tours for retailers to have them come with me because it's going to be so much gold. I mean, it's just such a great way to get inspiration and do research, I think. Great tip.
Well, especially if you're in New York or a place like that,
Yeah.
there's so much to see. I always keep a list when I hear about a new store, put it in my notes for my next trip and try to make sure I see it. So yeah.
This is airing in the beginning of 2025. So for this next year, what trends and challenges do you see impacting retail overall? And how can indie retailers stand out from those big boxes and e-com giants that we were just talking about to really resonate with today's consumer?
I think it's no secret that the gift and home industry is still got its challenges. That's a polite way of saying that that business has stinks most recently. Everybody's still dealing with this post-pandemic hangover that there was so much business and so much purchasing brought forward during that it's taken forever for that to get absorbed. For anybody in the gift trade or the home decor trade, be grateful you're not in the furniture business. If somebody bought a new sofa in 2022, they don't need one in 2025. But they're starting to want to see some new things again. And I think focused on home decor categories, rugs and lamps and deck pillows and things like that, that makes a lot of sense because that's where people are going to be replacing things. They're not replacing furniture, but that's critical. And we're starting to see the first shoots, I think, of this recovery. Interest rates are coming down. It's still not being reflected as much as it should be in mortgages and mortgage rates, but there's just such pent-up demand for people to buy houses and for sellers to sell that I think that's going to be a big story in 25, is that the housing market is going to come back again. Not to the boom years, but certainly much better than the last 2 years. So I think that's a big factor. And then finally, the wild card is about imports and tariffs and sourcing. Who knows what's going to happen? I think a lot of people still don't understand how tariffs work. I think people in the trade do, but shoppers don't really get it. And so if that's going to start to be reflected in higher prices, what does that mean? If you're a vendor, do you start to change where you're getting products from? I know the last time this really came up, a lot of production left China, particularly furniture, went to Vietnam, went to Philippines, went to Indonesia. My guess is you're going to see more of that. And you might see some more nearshoring, Mexico, Central America, Brazil, Caribbean. I think you're going to see some more products coming out of there. Again, starting to see some of that, the variance between what it costs to bring a product in from Asia versus Latin America, that's just getting narrower and narrower. So to me, those are some of the big things that I think you'll see. And if you're an independent retailer, you kind of need to know all of that stuff. It's silly, but I'm getting you out of your stores to go see other stores, but go to trade shows too. Don't think you can do all of this buying online. You never can tell what you're going to learn and the conversations you're going to have at trade shows. They're just critical.
Really great points for our listeners to be thinking about. And I agree, sometimes running a business, especially a retail store, you kind of feel siloed. You're kind of in your own world. It can feel lonely sometimes. And getting out there and asking questions to your reps and to your vendors and going, if there are some of those educational sessions, to those experts, like really getting that content, reading the publications to keep you up to date on what is happening, because I have a lot of curiosity about what 2025 does hold for consumer spending and where we're sourcing. And that is definitely a newer world for me, coming more from the marketing and social media space, but it is like massively impacting retail. And we want to make sure that our retailers have that information and they know what to be on the lookout for and what to do. And I think there is a lot of question marks right now where we're all just sort of like, will this hurt? Will this feel good? Will this be like, what is happening here? So we shall see.
Well, and if you go to trade shows and maybe you haven't gone in a little while, the mimosas are flowing again. The tote bags are back. So yep. If nothing else, you got to get some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Socialize, get outside of the store, connect with people, and have some mimosas. I love it. So fun.
And now, and I just, I don't mean to get preachy. I know a lot of independent store owners, they're slammed. They're trying to manage businesses and their staffs are lean and half the time they're at the register, ringing up $3 sales. So it's not easy. And I don't mean to suggest it is or that independents are being negligent or lazy. That's the furthest thing from the truth. I think independent store owners are some of the hardest working folks out there, but do what you can, and it's important.
Yeah, I agree. It really is important. Step outside of the store, have those conversations, and be aware. On this online selling perspective, more retailers have started selling online since COVID, right? The store is closed, so we need other alternatives. I've seen a lot more people launching e-com stores over the past years, but whether they're actually doing anything with them or seeing sales, or we do have some hesitancy, over logistics, profitability, shipping costs. There's a lot of things that can go into that. It can feel overwhelming. So, what advice do you have on approaching e-commerce in a simple, profitable way? And why do you think it's crucial they don't skip that channel?
It's less so now than it used to be, but years ago when I talked to a retailer and they'd say, "Oh, we don't sell online. It's too hard." I just felt like shaking them and saying, "Come on, e-commerce is 15 to 18% of retail business now, maybe even higher. And you're just throwing in the towel and walking away from as much as a fifth of your overall potential revenue. And you just can't do that anymore." So stores have gotten a lot better at dealing with this and at figuring out how to do it. The simple answer is Shopify. This is such a turnkey platform, and I'm not on Shopify's payroll. I don't get a commission from touting them. But if anybody who says that they can't do it, look into Shopify. It's so much easier than it used to be. And you're not talking about having to hire staff and do all this exotic programming. It works. Now, again, you still got to fulfill it and you got to market it and advertise it. So there are other costs and efforts associated with it, but it's so much easier than it used to be. You got to do it. It's just part of the business. And, I know one specialty retailer that has been doing it, and, it's some struggles. It's more work. And they're not setting the world on fire, but they're doing a nice little business. And some of it's, or a good chunk of it, is coming from outside their geographic area. So there's something to be said for that. So that's a big part of it. I mentioned TikTok before and Instagram, and that world far better than I do. But there's a lot of business being done on those kind of sites. And if you've got a business that aligns with the demographics of Instagram and TikTok, which is pretty broad these days, you need to figure out how to sell on those platforms because that's a big business. Look at live streaming. Live streaming is huge in China, which doesn't mean it's going to be huge here in the US, but it's a great model. You can do some good business and have some fun with it too. So you just can't walk away from it anymore because, like I said, it's 20% of the business, a fifth of the business. It's only going to get bigger and you can't not do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will get bigger. And I like that you brought up Shopify, TikTok, Instagram, live selling. Selling online could mean several different things. It could be different channels, and it doesn't mean that you have to be doing everything. If there's a listener right now who's like, but I'm barely, trying to keep up with my store, it's really about picking a channel that you can give access to your customers and potentially find new customers to buy without physically being in your store. And if you can have fun with it, like you said, Warren, with the live stream or with your TikToks, it's such an amazing way to connect with your audience. For example, I just filmed a podcast episode right before this one with Tanner the Planter. And Tanner the Planter, he sells plants and he goes live twice a week. He's got an app. They have built $1 million business with 17 employees off of live streaming and off of social media. He has over 3 million followers now. Like he's really taken off, but he started with just a couple thousand, followers that were engaged. But he showed up and he gave it away for customers to buy no matter where they were. And so I think it's important for retailers to think that way and offer it, and what's happening with TikTok live right now and TikTok shops is just fascinating. I mean, it's blowing up. It's really cool to see.
And I love your recommendation about you can't do it all. Pick one and get started on that and focus on that. And that's the way to do it. It's overwhelming when you look at, oh my God, how am I going to do all these things? Great suggestion. Just do the one to get started.
Yeah. Start simply, but start somewhere, right? And I know that's the hardest part, but I know you can do this. So you've studied big box retailers extensively. What are a couple of strategies or practices you think independent retailers can adopt from big box stores without losing their unique identity and customer experience?
You know, there's going to be a great Harvard Business School case study about Bed Bath and Beyond. If you think of any retailer in the home space that was just an iconic brand that people so identified with. It was a place people went on dates to Bed Bath and Beyond, and
Yeah.
and and the Simpsons parodied them, and so it was a great brand. And through a whole lot of reasons, which we don't have enough time on this session to go into, they're gone, and they still exist online, but the Bed Bath and Beyond that all of us shopped at is gone. And to me, the takeaway from that is they got complacent and they got risk adverse, and they refused to try new things. And the management might disagree with me, the management from back then, but as somebody who followed them about as closely as anybody in the business press, they would test a concept. As a great example. They tested a concept for a new store for one of their brands. It was a nice store. It was nicely done. And I thought it was a great store. And it took them 3 years to open a second store with that format. And so, I say to independents, just because what you're doing now is working, it may not work next year. It may not work next month.
Right.
So,
Right.
don't get complacent. Easy for me to say, it's not my money, but don't be afraid to try things and take risks. Everybody criticizes Amazon for all the things that they try that are failures, whether it's their bookstores or their 5-star stores or some of their grocery chains. But they're not afraid to try things. And
Exactly.
that's a tech mentality, is that let's try new things. They're famous for I think the slogan is fail fast, but they try stuff. And so if I'm an independent, I would try new things. Again, not 50 new things, but try one new thing, and whatever that is for your store, that's something great to learn from both a company that didn't do it, Bed Bath and Beyond, and one that has in Amazon. The
Yeah.
other thing that I say, and I think independents are generally pretty good about this, but you go into some big box chains, some lifestyle stores like Crate and Barrel or Pottery Barn. You can walk into that store and see the store and come back 3 weeks later and it looks completely different, or at least a lot different. They're really good at resetting their stores and trying different stuff. If you have windows, do your windows often. And I know that's hard, but just mix it up, and I think that's something that big stores do. Trader Joe's, which you may not think is a retailer that is somebody that you can learn from. They are constantly trying different stuff and constantly putting different stuff at the front of the store and on their end caps and things. So to me, those are the takeaways from big stores is don't be afraid to try stuff. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to keep your store fresh as you humanly can.
Yes, we like seeing that change. We want to see something new. I mean, that's part as a consumer. We love going to Trader Joe's. You get such different items there that you've never seen before, and it's such a new experience almost every time. Consumers want that. I just also feel like how technology has made us need information faster. We want variety and uniqueness quicker as well. Like we need stimulation. We need the newer things. And so trying different things, freshening up our windows and resetting the store. As you were talking about, like try different things within the store. And you mentioned Amazon, my brain, of course, because I am so AI focused, to the listener, you could go to ChatGPT and you could say, you are Jeff Bezos and I need you to consult me on my store. I own a blank and I am looking for 5 unique ways to mix it up, to try something new, to be innovative. What would you suggest? And I'd also share who my customer is, and boom, AI is going to give you these ideas if you feel like you're really not sure, because sometimes we just get stuck doing the same thing that we, don't have new ideas, and we need to innovate. We need to create. We got to get out there, and AI can help support. But those are really good tips, Warren. I love it.
You talk about AI as a journalist. I think I'm happy that I'm towards the back end of my career, because if AI was out there when I started, I'm not sure that that my career would have gone the way it has. I think AI is a great tool. It's not the be all and end all, but it's a great tool to use, and anybody who's not is missing out.
Yeah, it's such a strong brainstorming tool, and I actually saw this quote that it was something like, AI will not replace you. AI will make you irreplaceable as long as you know how to use
I like
it.
that.
Right? Yeah. So
I like that. Yeah.
I know. All right, Warren, are you ready for the resilience round?
Okay, wait, let me roll up my sleeves here and get set. Okay. I'm ready,
Here we
boy.
go. Best business book.
Loved the Steve Jobs biography. I thought it was a great book to learn about business, about his philosophy, good and bad. But I learned an awful lot from the Steve Jobs biography. Walter Isaacson wrote it, and great book.
Awesome. Amazing. Best retail technology, like an app or software.
If you're a business person, you're running a store, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok are great ways to meet up with your customers, but you need to be on LinkedIn to see what's going on from other business people. And I learn a lot from LinkedIn all the time. So that's a site that I'm on all day long to find out what's going on in business.
Yeah.
Always learn something there.
I got to echo that. I just started getting back into LinkedIn and I'm like, man, there is so much gold here. I wish I was using this sooner,
Yep.
but I'm glad to be there. So great advice. How do you keep up with the ever-changing retail landscape?
Maybe it's a paid commercial, but one of the online newsletters I write for is called the Robin Report. It's not so much a newsletter, but it posts stories, and I'm a journalist. I can't use the word content. I'm sorry. It posts stories about retail, about the fashion business, about the home business, grocery business. It's real high-level, informed analysis, great information. There's a lot to be learned from the traditional B2B media, but I like the Robin Report, and I'd be reading it even if I wasn't a contributor.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's the robinreport.com.
Robinreport.com.
Yep.
I second that too. That is one of my resources as well. To help retailers be stronger, more rooted in success, what's a timeless foundational best practice?
I mentioned it before. Go see stores. Go see what your competition is doing, but go see what other stores are doing. And we talked about Trader Joe's. We talked about garden stores. Amazing what you can learn from other retailers. And you're not stealing their ideas. You're being inspired. Very different things. So go see other stores.
Yeah, good one. If you had to start your career all over again, what's one thing you'd do differently?
So as a journalist, I think I mentioned that I'm glad that most of my career is behind me and that AI is not going to replace me. Going way back, I was a liberal arts major. I was not a journalism major. And I think that was a great foundation for me because I learned a lot of stuff about general business and general things. So I'm glad I did that. I probably should have paid more attention to the handwriting course that I never took in elementary school. My handwriting's atrocious. So yeah.
Same. Mine's like a child. You can't read it.
Yes.
Yeah. Warren, finally, what do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
I think it looks good, as somebody who ran publications for a long time. I can't tell you how many stories we did probably every 2 to 4 years about the death of independent
Yeah.
retailers. And we were absolutely positively wrong every time. Independents don't have the market share that they had 50 years ago, much less 20 years ago. But independents are not going away. The good ones keep getting better. I'm seeing new waves of independents come into towns, people opening new stores, next generation. A lot of independents are closing because their kids don't want to inherit the business, but other people are getting involved in it. And I think that's wonderful. So I think independents have a great future, the good independents, because they know what they're doing, and consumers love shopping at them.
Yep.
So I'm all for them.
Love it. Same here, Warren. This was such a great conversation. How can people learn more about you and connect with you?
I have a website, warrensreport.com. Apparently somebody else took Warren Report. So this is warrensreport.com. And I post most of what I write for other media on there. And that's a good place to find what I'm doing. Like I said, I write for the Robin Report, for Business of Home, for Gifts and Deck Accessories. But you'll find most of what I do on Warren's Report. And I look forward to you reading that. I look forward to your comments in there. I'm at wshoulberg at Gmail. I welcome your questions, comments, and rebuttals. So thank you.
Yes, I love it. And we'll link to all that as well. Warren, so nice to sit down with you and catch up and hear what you're thinking and what you've learned. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom.
Thanks, Crystal. Have a good start to 25, and look forward to seeing you out there on the circuit.
Yes, same. And everyone, remember that I am rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Rooted in Retail podcast. It means the world to me to have you here. If you find value in this show and you listen on an iPhone, if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app, that would be amazing. And if you watch YouTube, if you're a YouTube subscriber, we film this. And so if you rather watch the show, you can also do that over on YouTube. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.